Hear that. Okay. So we are talking about the final exam for Chem 105, and the final exam is due in the final exam week, which is the next week. So there is an early submission and there is a regular submission date, if you can see here on the top. So the early submission is December 13th, which is Monday. That's the 5 bonus point if you submit both the parts. And the the regular submission is on December 16th. So you need to make sure that you have submitted both the parts. I'm going to write here edit so that you can just, you're not confused about this. Okay, so that you know that you need to submit both the parts. Deadline all right. Okay, so that is something that should motivate you to try to get done early. And of course, no pressure on you. If you finish later, you are still fine. So let's talk about the part two now. Part two is 70% of the entire of this exam grade. So that would be 5, 6, and 7. And that has I have to check how many questions, but it is going to be a little bit longer. So if you want to get done with one part, then you can do that. So that is the reason why they're divided in two parts. So you don't feel overwhelmed, right? You can finish one and then go to another. Are there any questions about the exam at this time? Feel free to ask now. No questions. Anything that you want me to clarify for you? I can also say that the exam is going to be in a very, very similar pattern as the other exams, which means about 40 to 50% are multiple choice, and then there is like one line. And please be ready to upload picture if needed. Also remember that if for any reason your answers are uh, I guess I have just a way to check for quickly whether the answers are copied from elsewhere, and if that is, then that particular question doesn't get awarded any points. So we want to be really doing a great job. I want you to learn the content, so please make sure to do that. Okay. So with this, I just want to show you how this exam is open. Okay, it doesn't show yet because it's a little bit further out. You can see that I've caught up with plenty of grading. What remains now is 5 and 6, and then this one. So I've actually finished a whole lot of reading last week, the week before I fell sick, which that's when I planned to do it, but I couldn't do. Now let me show you where that exam is. It's going to show up on your screen once it's like within that 1 week period. So here we go. That's the final exam, part 1. And so it clearly says here, this is, you study the modules 1 through 4 and then you attempt it. Okay, and there are 32 questions and multiple choice, and there is only one attempt, and the time is 42 minutes. So that is what you are trying. You're doing an exam for 32 points and for 42 minutes. Okay. What else? Like if we go back, I do have the exam too. I can just show you briefly what it's going to look like. So you didn't have to, sometimes we click on something, we worry about like, is it going to start the exam? So just wanted to show you. It says 15 multiple choice questions, 2 points each, 11 short and answer questions, and 1 5-point question. Okay. So each question will be checked for authenticity. So make sure to use your own words and do it. Okay. So that's going to be your exam 2. I just need to change the date for this. So I'm going to write here the due date for this to be, I'm just going to write here Monday for now. But that would be like, even if you submit by Thursday, we should be fine. Okay, so that's what it is. And I don't need to show you the syllabus today. We are in the final module. So that's what you need to focus on. I do want to remind you real quick about that there is a Quizlet attached to module 6 and 7. So I would say that you should definitely go and review. At least one student who was reviewing said it was really, really helpful. So the good thing is you can do it even on your phone. Like it's, I think, very, very phone friendly. So yeah, I would just try to see if that needs to be done. I mean, that can be done over the phone. Okay. So any other questions from any of the modules?
Is there a Quizlet for each module?
Uh, actually not. I started working on it. I haven't yet worked on it, but I think I said that I will make sure to have a Quizlet for 5 because you have done up to 4. So at least if we have Quizlet for 5, 6, and 7, then you feel like at least those 3 can be reviewed really well. So I'm going to see if I can do, and remember for 3 and 4, I did issue a study guide. So I think that should be pretty helpful. Now I wanted to ask you guys, like initially when you were having chapter 1 and the nomenclature, you thought like it was a little bit of work. So I just wanted to know if you are comfortable with any of the older modules needed a review, or if you want, you can put it on the chat. Like, you can just, yeah, you can just say like, okay, this is the module I'm having most trouble with. No, nothing in specific. Okay. Well, in that case, we can begin with module 7. Give me one moment. I'm going to open it. Seven. Okay. I was trying to see if there is a. Okay, I think that should be good. Okay. So in this module, we have been learning about vitamins a little bit, and we will do some more beyond vitamins. That is, what are the uses of minerals, and also what is the term bioenergetics. So this is just the same information as is in your announcement. And like I said, since I've already opened the module, so if I would be you, I would finish these 4 because I've already done exam on these and get done with that. Also, I wanted to say that if you can still see the survey, the offer is still open. You can go to the announcement and finish it and indicate to me that it's done. And I'm going to add those as definitely 100% as the bonus points. So by tomorrow, that is Sunday night, I would have added those points. Okay, so in this module, like we said, we learned about vitamins. So there are 2 category of vitamins. I'm sure that you already did the first part with Simone last week, but I'm going to just go very, very briefly over it so that we are all on the same page. So if you see here, there are 2 types of vitamins, water soluble and fat soluble. And just with your general knowledge, you would know that it is always the water soluble ones are the ones which are less troublesome because they are going to be excreted out really easily. They don't really accumulate that way, right? Okay. Oh, okay. So someone has just posted on the chat that they do not see our course as an option for a survey. So people who have done survey, could you just share a little bit like where did you do the survey? Anyone who has completed the survey. No? Someone can unmute themselves and say. Where did you find the survey link? Because, I see different things than what you see as a faculty. I cannot see that kind of survey link as you see it. So have you done it for others? Have you stopped seeing it, or what is it? Yeah, guys, come on. Say something about the survey. Let me just stop sharing for a minute. So were you able about the survey? If you survey, can you share about where did you find the survey? Okay. Oh, okay. So someone is saying they do not see this survey. Oh, okay. So someone saying that they see the survey, but they don't see.
You don't have plenty of money.
But also, yeah. Okay. So if you did not see it, then you probably missed it.
Yeah.
Possible. Okay. All right. That's always a possibility. So if you see it, you do it, and let me know if you did it. Okay. Yeah. Take a look at that announcement. It will say. So the fat soluble vitamins and water soluble vitamins, that's what we are just going to review very, very briefly. So fat soluble is A, D, E, and K, and water soluble is B and C. And so what are we going to focus on this? So we are not really emphasizing on things like, let's say, memorizing required daily amount. No. So I'm just going to say that that's not our focus. Okay, so I would say our focus would be on, like, okay, beta carotene is converted to vitamin. That's important for you to know. Okay. What are the uses of vitamin? That is important. Then what is important is, like, okay, at least you should know a little bit about the formula. So these are the things that I would focus on this slide. Besides that, I would also focus on, and let me go to the next slide. I would also focus on, what are the, a little bit on the sources, but not too much. Like, I would never ask you to list 3 sources that are rich in vitamin A, because only vitamin A, because it's not an only vitamin A. I do know that sometimes one source is important for more than one kind of vitamin. However, what I could ask you is, what can the excess and deficiency cause? If there is too much of vitamin A or too less, what happens with that? So basically, what I'm more interested is in the chemistry and the biology part of it. I'm not so much interested in the nutrition part of it, because that gets covered in another class probably. So how does it play a role? So that's my strategy for all the vitamins. I would focus on what is the importance of this vitamin, how this is important for maintaining bones and teeth. And I wouldn't be too much worried about how much it is needed, the numbers. I also wouldn't worry too much about the sources as such, even though it's important to know for your good knowledge, it's good. Okay, so, and what is the source? How do you get it? And what does the excess and deficiency cause? So these were some of the things that are also addressed in the Quizlet flashcard, so that you can also see what kind of questions or what kind of terminologies can possibly lead to questions. Okay. So that is that. And then the vitamin E, similarly, it's a blood thinner. What is its use? It's an important antioxidant. What is it made up of? And what are the different things? So like I said, you would find that a lot of them have commonalities, in terms of what vitamins they have. Okay. deficiency and toxicity is rare. So I would remember that, or I would make notes of it, flashcards or whatever you call it, whatever is your way of remembering this. I do want to make sure that you remember it in your way. So please make sure to, um, mark that or write that out in some way. Also, you can also make your own Quizlet that way. So, you can also make, it's freeware, so you can just make it and as you're studying, add it there. Similarly, vitamin K, it's a fat soluble vitamin as the last fat soluble vitamins. And, it is important for blood clotting and the coagulation of the blood. So there is also important fact that bacteria in the gut can convert K1 into K2 and all the other, there are different forms to be remembered here. So you can see here, these are the different forms. So that is something to think about. And how does it help in the process of clotting? Then these are just the good sources to know. So all of this just always remind me that, okay, lots of varieties in the food, lots of different kinds of things in the diet is what you should be aiming at. Like, I hope if there is someone taking a nutrition class and alongside, they would know that they have told me in past that they're doing something really, really similar. They learn about all of these things. So, okay, so then we have the water soluble ones. And in the water soluble ones, of course, the first one is the B series. There is many in there. If you see here, there are total 8 of the B series vitamins. And so that's the first one. What is its role? What is its deficiency can lead to? Similarly, that's for, that's a mistake. Vitamin B2 or riboflavin is a water soluble vitamin that's required. I'll fix that mistake. So it's, what is its role? Its role is in function of hormones in carbohydrate metabolism. That's something you didn't read about metabolism, but that you did read about hormones. You did read about carbohydrates. So, it just kinds of brings in different knowledges together. Okay, so what does a deficiency cause? It can cause different skin disorders, or it can result in I mean, that's why I said different skin disorder, but you can see that there is different types of disorders that can happen here. Okay. Then there is B3. So these are some of the things you've done. There is B5, all of them very similar. We are just sticking to the main, the name of it, especially if it has another name. That would be nice to know. You don't want to be not knowing that, okay, PLP is the active form of a water-soluble vitamin B6. You want to make sure you know that kind of information. And of course, also, if you look at the structure, lots of similarities in the structure on the right-hand top corner. You can see that there is these ring structures, and that's what is common between these. Then similarly, B7 and B9, we don't have to really go through each one of them, because since we already went through them in the last lecture. What are the deficiencies? So this one is the, it is not easy to have a deficiency, but you can have deficiency, and it leads to brittle and thin fingernails, hair loss, conjunctivitis, dermatitis, and etc.
Question real quick.
Yes.
So as you're going through the slides and you're telling us to remember this stuff, is it already on the Quizlet, or we should just make like an extra note of it?
I think it should be on the Quizlet. That's something that I think it is there. I can run through the Quizlet with you, so that way you will feel a little bit more familiar. But
And you made this Quizlet, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so I do think that it is pretty exhaustive. If I remember it correctly, it had up to 60, 70 questions. So it is pretty exhaustive, but I can't remember if you can add in Quizlet. That's a really good question. But I do think that you can probably add in, I don't know, maybe I have to give you the add as a user to be able to add questions. But I know there are some where a lot of people can add stuff. So I would say if I'm missing something, you could remind me, like you can say, hey, you didn't cover this part, and then we can add some of the questions to the quiz. But I really wanted to make Quizlet for you for 6 and 7 because I know that there is a lot of memorization in 6 and 7. And I feel like it's very good, especially for people who are working, because, you know, when you're working, you really can't be going through PowerPoint in the middle of the work. That's like very like mentally draining. Okay. But you could actually go through the Quizlet and keep learning as you are finishing. So I don't personally think that others so much needed a Quizlet, so I did never made it. But 6 and 7, you would really, really benefit from this thing. So B12, I guess, you know, this is the last in the B series, and you can see that the structure is it's a very interesting structure. It has a cobalt in between. That's why it's called cobalamin. And then this deficiency can cause irreversible damage and also lead to to a specific condition from anemia. Okay. So these are the different things. And then we move on to vitamin C, and we are just looking at, again, the role of vitamin C. What does it do? What is the deficiency cause? So these are some of the things that were covered, and I just want to make sure that we go through them. So let's now start on beyond the vitamins, that is on minerals, that is different minerals that are present in the body. So if you remember, you know, this kind of reminds me of module 1. If you remember that periodic table, there are certain elements that are more commonly present. And so we had a periodic table which showed like colors, like these green ones are really abundantly present. The red ones are in traces. So that's exactly what it is. We're just like, you know, coming a full circle. We're looking at calcium, chloride, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, and sulfur. These are the major minerals. And then there are all the other ones, which are traces. Okay, um, so the top 6 vitamins and minerals for teeth and gum are these. So these are the ones that are really, really important. And if you remember any conversations with your dentist, I'm pretty sure you must have heard or must have seen on the TV or must have seen on the toothpaste ads or just a toothpaste like, okay, fluoride toothpaste, blah, blah. So, you know, these are the things that are really, really needed. So it just tells you that it's not just the vitamins. I mean, vitamins are of course important, but then minerals like calcium, fluoride, and phosphorus are also important for the teeth. Now, I know we are not going to learn each and every function of the minerals at this time, because this last topic, which is module 7, there are lots of tidbits of different things. So we just started, and I should say finished minerals, because we just didn't do a whole lot. We're just learning what is present or what is needed by the body. Okay. So that is that. And then we move on to body fluids. And this is all as per your, you know, original syllabus. So that's why I'm touching on different topics here. So body fluids are divided into 2 parts. So this is really important to understand these 2 terms. One is the intracellular. So let me just try to see if I can make this bold. So one of them is intra, intra means within or inside. And the other one is extra, which means that it is right outside the cell. And so now let us look at these definitions by looking at this definition right here. Okay, so you know, if you are looking here, this is the intracellular, which is the yellow part. Okay, and that is the one that is intra, means within the cell. So that's what we're talking about here. Okay, and then we have the extracellular, which is also called interstitial fluid, right? So if you see here, this is the extracellular or ECF, which is present in here. And so of course, both are important because one is maintaining the cell, but then that is not everything. You also need to have that balanced out with the extracellular content. So if you see here, there is in this extracellular, there are two parts. So let's just like focus like a minute on doing that. So 80% is the interstitial fluid, which is present within the cells, and then there is 20% of it is plasma. So when you, if yeah, I know many of you work in like a little bit of allied health kind of settings or will work. So you take the blood and then you spin it down and then you get that clear liquid, and that's the plasma. So a lot of it is plasma as well, which is not present in the cell, but it's outside the cell. So these three terms, I think I would think of them as important. That is intracellular, what is extracellular, and among the extracellular, what is interstitial and what is the blood plasma. So this is what's important. Now, this is all the fluid part. So I'm just actually backtracking for you. So if you look here, this is all the 60% fluid in male and 55% in the female is the fluid part, and the rest is the solid. There's, of course, that differences between male and female, right? So intracellular and extracellular, you have to remember that. And in the extracellular, there is two parts that also something for you to look at. Okay. So we are just like taking a closer look at the same thing. So if you see here, there is cells. And like I said, there is intracellular is within the cell, the fluid is there. Now you have to, we have been so tuned and trained to looking at this picture of the cell. It's hard for us to, we always think of it almost like a stable structure. I would I would say that like cells probably more think of it like a balloon, like a different kind of shape of balloon. So it needs to be filled with that intracellular fluid. Okay. And then the interstitial is the one that is present between the cells and that blood capillary, between the plasma. So that's the interstitial, and then there is plasma. So if you see here, why is it 40% of the body weight? Because 25 liters, my gosh. So that's like, our 60, 70 trillion cells, whatever that is. Inside that, if you collect all the liquid, that comes to 25 liters. That's a lot. And then, of course, you have that in between areas of the cell. So between your cells inside, of course, whatever fluid is there, and that also connects you with the cells, because that's a way the water and electrolytes are being exchanged. I mean, all these cells are connected to each other, right? So that's what it is. So interstitial fluid, all the definitions on the left-hand side of the panel of the picture, present between the cells, and it's approximately 80% of ECF. Plasma is in the blood, and 20% of ECF. And this also includes that there are lymph, synovial fluid, there is aqueous humor. So all kinds of different fluid, all that, whether present in the eye or cerebrospinal fluid, all of those are a part of or contributing to that interstitial fluid. Okay, so those are the important body fluids. And now if we look at them, we are just again closely making sure to have this proper understanding of the topic. So if you see here, there is the cells, and there is this a little space between the cells and the blood vessel. So if you see here, these are the blood cells. Okay, this is a moving blood vessel. They have this pink part, which is being filled in the blood, is a plasma. Then there is this one is interstitial fluid, and whatever is present in the cell is intracellular fluid. Okay, so plasma membrane, it separates the intracellular fluid from the surrounding interstitial fluid. So you can see that plasma membrane is creating that barrier. Similarly, blood vessel wall is creating that barrier. So these are permeable, but you still need a little bit of a barrier. So what do are these composed of? So now it's really nice because we've read all of this, we can completely understand that they are composed of course, of different material. There is like a little bit of carbohydrates, there's amino acid, there are fatty acid, there are hormones, enzymes. And as far as the inorganic substances go, there is sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, phosphate, and sulfate. So all of this is what makes these body fluids. So that is the reason we were trying to understand. And now we are putting all that information together. Okay. So what are the differences between them? Are they really these things? Are they varying between the intra and extra? Of course, there is definitely a difference. So the extracellular fluid, which is that interstitial and the plasma, that has a lot more sodium as compared to intracellular. So within your cell is primarily potassium. And what does these help with? It helps with muscle contraction, impulse transmission, and fluid and electrolyte balance. And this has a little bit of a different role. It helps in maintaining the resting membrane potential, action potential, and maintains the intracellular volume. Like I said, think of the cell more like a balloon kind of structure. Of course, differently shaped, not like a balloon in that sense. And then the regulation, I would say actually more like a water balloon. Okay. Anyway, so it also helps in regulation of pH. So we have sometimes we've in past talked about pH buffer is help maintain pH. So these are important to maintain that buffering conditions. And then most abundant anion. So I don't know if you know this, like I mean we have not done in this class, but cations are the positively charged and anions are negatively charged. So just wanted to put this out there. And then most abundant anion is the chloride, which regulates osmotic pressure and forms HCl in the gastric acid. So what is the role? So sodium potassium pump, I'm not sure if you have read in other classes, but sodium potassium pump are really, really important. They kind of work against the concentration gradient and helps in keeping sodium very high inside of our cells and potassium high outside of the cell. That's really, really important. Without that, most of the functions inside the cell would be so non-functional. So if you see here, just like going over some of those roles. So now we are looking at the mineral roles but from the point of view of like they being that cation or anion. So sodium most abundant in ECF, and it plays a pivotal role in fluid and electrolyte balance and accounts for half of the osmolarity of ECF. So chloride, which is most prevalent anion, it moves easily between the external and the internal parts, and it helps in maintaining that balance. The second abundant anion, and like I said, anions are the ones that are negatively charged. And so these are the ones that are helping in increases the concentration increases in blood passing through systemic capillaries, capturing CO2. So what we are trying to here say is that bicarbonate concentration changes with the amount of CO2 that is entering the blood. And this, along with chloride, maintains the balance in ECF and ICF. There are two more, but before we go further, I would like to ask you if you have any questions about what we did so far. So we are connecting all the pieces, especially we are connecting the minerals and the vitamins and everything and how they contribute to the body fluid. Okay, any questions, anything that you want to ask? Is this complicated? Is this difficult? We don't want anything too crazy at this time. I hope it is not. And when we go through Quizlet, you'll see that. So yeah, there is no like, I already am on 50th slide, so you can't go back to a previous question. So please do ask if you have a question. So the role of potassium is that it is the most abundant cation in the intracellular fluid within the cell. And it helps in maintaining the normal body fluid. It establishes a resting membrane potential in neurons and muscle fibers, which is so important. And it helps in regulating the pH. Magnesium is not as abundant as potassium, but it is still a lot. You can see a lot more magnesium in the intracellular fluid as compared to the extracellular fluid. It's a very important cation and the cofactor for certain enzymes, as well as the sodium potassium pump. So it's essential for, what is the role of it? It's essential for synaptic transmission and for normal neuromuscular activity. So as you can see, any of this imbalance is going to lead to a huge problem in how the signal is transmitted from brain, or the nervous system, I should say, all the way to the different cells or different parts of the body. So besides all the fluids we talked about, there's some specialized fluids, and these are something that many of you probably would be familiar with general knowledge in the lymph. I mean, these fluids are present in the lymph. They may be present in milk or CSF or amniotic fluid. So all of this is something that you might have come across. Of course, tears. So we all know tears. Tears is a specialized body fluid. If you have any questions, you can ask now. So what is aqueous humor? Just wanted to mention very, very briefly. It is not tear. Aqueous humor is the fluid that fills the space in front of the eyeballs. So wherever your eyeballs are, in front of that, the liquid that is there between the lens and the cornea, that space, that is the aqueous humor. And another thing is that about the composition of the tear. The tear has also a lot of different things. For example, it has an aqueous layer. It is composed of vitamins, salt, and other minerals. There is an oily layer that prevents evaporation. And then there is a mucus layer, which helps the tear stay in the eye. So it looks pretty simple, and you may feel like it's just like water and salt or something, but it's not really that. It's way more complex. So here we go with the function of each one of them, just for you to get an idea of like how, all of these components are really essential. Many of them are clear and colored as fluids, but they nevertheless do contain proteins and lipids and carbohydrates and all of these things. I would never ask you the percentage of protein. So could be a trick question, where I never ask you, what is the percentage of protein in lymph? No, that's not the focus of our course. I would like to rather be able to tell a little bit about the functions of the lymph. What do they do? And yes, for you to know that they do contain protein, lipids, and carbohydrates. And the next one is milk. And then you can also see, of course, the milk contains a lot of different carbohydrates and different kinds of proteins, especially casein. And then there is lactalbumin. There are different enzymes, and there are immunoglobulins. So mother's immunoglobulins are passed on to the child and giving that immunity. So of course, that is a protein that is being passed on. There are minerals, there are vitamins. So all of these have different things. And so please do focus on the functions. Like I mentioned to you, I would never ask you what percentage of solid is present in the milk. That's not the kind of question that we focus on. We are focusing on composition. We are focusing on function. Then we have the cerebrospinal fluid. We're looking at the volume, which is about 500 ml being formed every day. And it's replaced 3 times a day. That's a huge number. That's the kind of information that we would want to remember. What is the function? It acts as a hydraulic shock absorber, and it maintains the intracranial pressure. It also influences the hunger sensation and eating behavior. So all of these have these specific roles. Like I mentioned, the aqueous humor, I mentioned to you where it is present. It's present right here. And, blockade in the flow of aqueous humor can cause glaucoma. So glaucoma is when there's a lot more eye pressure and kind of closes the vision, like of how much a person can see. Similarly, there's another point here. So, so we talked about aqueous humor. There's vitreous humor, which is present in the back part of the eye, which is filled with this gel called vitreous body of hyaluronic acid secreted by retina. So that's what the different parts. I know that it says aqueous humor, but does mention another thing in here. So about the sweat, so, I mean, we all sweat and we are familiar with the fluid per se, but it is controlled by a steroid, and that steroid also affect what is all present. Um, and then volume of the sweat varies based on, of course, what kind of weather it is, what kind of exercise you do. So many different factors. And these are the sweat secreting cells right here, and the sweat gland. Then there is tears. Tears is produced by lacrimal glands. It's isotonic but becomes hypertonic due to evaporation. And if it's a lots of tears, the person is crying and crying, then of course it becomes isotonic. And it is the function of this is that there is lysozyme, and that protects the eyes from infectious agents, because lysozyme can chop off certain bacterial viral proteins like that, or it can help wash it away, lubricate the surface and kind of wash it away, and fills in the irregularities of corneal surface to improve optical properties. So we want it to be always smooth. So if you have experienced dry eyes, you would know, especially in winter, you would experience that. Or if you're looking at a screen for a long time, then your eyes are like forced to be open. Then, you really don't have so much amount of tears. So that's why you have to use that artificial teardrop or artificial fluids. So now we have come to the last part, which is the bioenergetics. But if you have any questions about the prior parts, please feel free to ask them. So there are not too many slides for this, but I would like you to really, really focus, because it's a little bit different from anything that we have done before. Okay. So bioenergetics talks about, of course, you have realized that there are two parts in it. One is the energy, and one is the bio, which is the life form part. So that's the study of energy transfer within the living organisms. So why should we study this? Because the understanding of metabolism provides a direction to better understand how skeletal muscles generate energy, and how and why the body responds to exercise the way it does. So let's break this definition down. Okay. First of all bodies, whether it's human body or animal body, they will undergo the process of metabolism. We'll break down the food, get energy. Okay. Once we understand that, the process of metabolism, okay, then it helps in understanding, especially about certain specific muscles like skeletal muscles. And why do we need to do that? Because we will understand how exercise influences our body. So if we study metabolism, we are in a way studying how energy is spent when the muscles are working. And when we study that, what we are studying is, of course, we are helped by studying bioenergetics, because we are looking at the biological or the living tissue parts and the energy that it spends. Okay, so there are actually some laws for it. So what are those laws? That is what we are going to take a look at the next slide. So if you have learned physics, and you have learned Newton's law, you probably will not find this unfamiliar. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but can be changed from one form to another. So if you see here, when you are looking at something, that light falling in the eye in the way it does, it of course activates a chemical which will be, it'll send the signal all the way to the back of the brain, which will tell you what image is formed. So that's an electrical impulse. You can see that light is being converted to a different energy, chemical and then electrical. What about muscle contraction? So that is chemical to mechanical, because chemical is like all that energy by the food, and that converts to ADP, and then it converts into a mechanical, like actual output. Similarly, action potential, by that we mean that chemical molecules which help in converting that to electrical signal. Then there is vitamin D, which is formed because the light falls on the skin and then it triggers a series of reactions. If you go back to the vitamin D slides, you would see that. And it converts to a chemical energy, which is what is stored in vitamin D. Similarly, the sweat. So in a sense, by these examples, we're trying to say that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change form. So one form to another form, it's possible, but you cannot really destroy energy. The second thing is, again, it's energy transfer will proceed in the direction of disorderliness. So what do we mean by that? So I think the example is in your houses. If you ever left for work and there are kids in the house and you come back, do you ever find the house clean? Never, ever. You only find the house more in a disorderly state. That exactly should remind you of this second law of bioenergetics, that energy transfer also always proceeds in the direction of entropy or making things more disordered as it releases the free energy. So substrate, when it makes the product, it's releasing the free energy and increasing the entropy. Entropy is the state of disorderliness, and that's what it is increasing. Randomness. So like I gave you an example, like a clean room, less entropy, a filled up room with all things lying randomly here and there, disorderliness, so that's increased entropy. Okay. So what are the other examples? So we saw some of these examples already in some of the slides. And so the law of bioenergetics can help us understanding some of these energy transfer within the human body or biological system. What is the most important molecule that is in this? So we all know that ATP or adenosine triphosphate is one of the most important molecule for energy transfer. It's the energy currency of the cell. We know that mitochondria is the powerhouse. It generates the ATP, and then it is generated either in an aerobic or an anaerobic process. And once the ATP is generated, it can help in the process of carrying out any kind of reactions in the body as needed. I think that probably is the little bit of bioenergetics that we were doing. It's just a huge topic. People spend like entire class and their entire research careers working on this. So we're just trying to understand very basics of it. All right, so it's a good day. It's a really nice weather outside and you are done with the entire course. So give yourself a big pat on the back. Don't worry so much about exam that the worry overtakes all that fun stuff that you have learned. Try to review as best as you can. And I'm going to take you to the Quizlet now, but I'm just trying to say review. Don't try to just attempt the exam. That would not be good. I'm telling you, the way the questions are, if you're going back too many times, this is what I've seen with some people. I would see there's 30 questions, 20 are correct, rest 10 are not attempted. Clearly, they were trying to go back and look, and then they ran out of time. So I would not want you to run out of time. I want you to do the exam really, really well so that your grade is the best possible. Okay, and if you've not finished something, please do it. I'm going to stop sharing now and take you to the Quizlet as promised, because I don't want to forget about it. So I'm just going to take you to, for example, the module 7 Quizlet, so that you can see. And like I said, if you are like, really have to go to work or something and have that 20 minutes break, this would be a good way to review. Okay, so this is the Quizlet link. I hope you can see it. I am on the Quizlet now. I think I'm sharing the right thing. So there are 82 questions in here, okay? So there's different ways you can either learn or use flashcards or whatever. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry, this is like, oh, no, this is advertisement, come on. Okay, so, just sorry, it disappeared. I don't know what happened. Did I actually disappear? Why would it do that? Hold on. Okay, so what are the water-soluble vitamins? So if you click, you should be able to see the definitions. Okay, B and C. And then you can go back and see the question. Okay. Then similarly, you could go ahead. What are the different forms of vitamin A? I'm just going to show you the questions. You can figure it out yourself. What is converted to vitamin A? Now that may be a question that you don't know. Then you can just look it up, beta carotene. Okay. What are the benefits of vitamin A? You can look those up. So what all it does, similarly, there should be excess of vitamin A, deficiency of vitamin A. What are the two different forms of vitamin D? So, you can sign up and see the remaining cards is free. Okay, it's really, really irritating. I mean, I can log in and see, but if you cannot, you should just make up a free account and you should be able to access it. I can log in and try to see if I can just show it to you. So I think it's important that you log in. And I hope I'm logging in with the right thing. Yeah, I think I can see now. Okay, so like that. So this is just 9 questions. There are, like I said, there are 82 questions. You can just keep going and seeing all these different kinds of question. Oh God. And just check them out and, keep working on it. So does anyone have any questions? Also, you can do, like I said, you can also do different kinds of things. Like you can do tests or you can do match and all of that. Okay, so, true or false question. Okay, PLP. So I don't know, this probably didn't. What is the active form of B1? No, probably this test won't work because it's arranged in a term question kind of pattern. So I can just show you learn, and learn is what I think we were looking at. And that is the, God, this is just so much to say. It's like really, really want to say. Okay, so what are choose matching term ADEK? Okay, that's probably this. Okay, nice work. Okay, let me just say something wrong. What are the, oh, no sweat, you're still learning. Yeah, so like that. I mean, you can just try it on your own and see what method works best for you. Okay, so do probably need to create an account after 10 questions, but that's about it. Any questions for me from the Quizlet or from anything else that you would like to ask? No questions. Time is right around 3:30. So if you have anything to ask, you can ask. I was thinking that you guys may be a little bit busy next Saturday. So I would say that please do put in the chat or email me if you need me to be there for the class, because there is nothing to teach and I already told you how to review it. So do let me know if you need something. But we'll only be meeting once for tutoring this week, which is, I believe, which is like, I have to ask someone if Wednesday works better for her or Thursday. Let me stop recording.